The rain tapped rhythmically on the cafe's window, providing a somber backdrop to the heavy atmosphere that hung between Kay and me. I grasped the handle of my coffee cup, but its warmth failed to soothe the chill in my bones as I prepared to unburden myself. I began, my voice quivering. I need to tell you about the worst day of my life. It started with a man named Oliver Peterson, or OP, as he is known, believed he had everything figured out. He had a loving fiancée named Bess and a future that seemed brighter than ever. Kay leaned forward, her eyes filled with concern. John, what happened? I took a deep breath, my chest constricting with the pain of the memories. Everything came crashing down when I discovered. Bess had been unfaithful to me, not merely engaging in a casual sexual relationship, but rather, she had been involved in an illicit affair with her boss, Kay. Kay's eyebrows furrowed in concern, and she lowered her voice. That's terrible, John. However, could you please elaborate on how you discovered this information? I hesitated, my hands trembling as I recalled that fateful day. I had been unable to ignore the signs any longer. Kay was distant, secretive, and always on her phone. Therefore, I took action. I am not proud of the fact that I installed spyware on her phone. Kay's eyes widened in surprise, but she did not judge me. I continued, John, what did you find? Tears welled up in my eyes as I recounted the painful discovery. The most distressing aspect was that she had been having an affair with her boss, a man named Richard. He is married with a pregnant wife and 3 young children. I saw their messages. Explicit photographs and the deceptions that had irreparably damaged our relationship. Kay extended her hand across the table, gently placing it in mine. I am unable to fathom the depth of anguish she must have endured. John, it is akin to a nightmare. I nodded, my throat constricted with emotion. It was a betrayal on numerous levels. Kay was my future, my everything. However, on that fateful day, I lost her. Furthermore, I experienced a sense of self-loss as the rain persisted outside. The gravity of my betrayal intensified, and I recognized that this was merely the initial phase of a challenging journey through heartache, deceit, and ultimately, redemption. With the sting of betrayal still fresh, I embarked on a mission to uncover the truth. I had installed spyware insulation as an act of I was driven by desperation, yet I was unable to continue living in ignorance. I was compelled to ascertain the full extent of Bess's betrayal. One night, with a sense of dread gnawing at my stomach, I connected to Bess's phone through the spyware app one had installed. The dim glow of the screen illuminated my face as I sifted through her messages, emails, and photos, and the messages between Danning and Bess revealed a long-standing affair between the two. Despite the use of coded language, it was evident that they had been meeting in secret, sharing intimate moments and planning their next meeting. As I continued to scroll through the explicit photos and read the messages, I felt a growing sense of unease. The declarations of love were distressing to read. I experienced a complex emotional response, which included anger, sadness, and disbelief. One evening, I met with Kay, who provided emotional support and a sounding board for my tumultuous emotions. We sat in a quiet corner of a small, dimly lit cafe, the same place where I had shared my initial confession. Kay looked at me with a mixture of concern and empathy. I nodded, my voice shaky. I confirmed that the situation was worse than I could have ever imagined. They had been seeing each other. For months, I had been privy to a plethora of photographs, messages, and other forms of communication between Kay and John. Kay's brow furrowed in sympathy. John, I am at a loss to comprehend how she could have behaved in such a manner towards you. You deserve better. I exhaled, the weight of my discoveries pressing down on me. I am okay, but it is just so difficult to accept. I had assumed that she was the one, the love of my life. Kate reached across the table and gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. You are going to get through this, John. You are stronger than you think. The truth I had uncovered was painful, but it was also a turning point. I came to realize that I was unable to allow this betrayal to define me with Kay's unwavering support. I began to envision a future where I could move beyond the deception and heartbreak that had consumed me with the weight of Best's betrayal pressing down on me. I knew it was time to take control of my life. I could not continue living in the same apartment surrounded by the memories of our once happy relationship. It was time for a clean break with determination in my heart. I packed up Best's belongings, each item feeling like a heavy reminder. I then proceeded to carefully place her clothes, her favorite books, and the trinkets we had collected together into boxes, sealing them with tape. This process was emotionally taxing, serving as a tangible representation of the turmoil I was experiencing. I then changed the locks to our apartment, symbolically severing the ties that had previously bound us together. The sound of the locks clicking into place was simultaneously liberating and terrifying, marking the beginning of a new chapter in my life. The living room was filled with boxes that contained Bessa's belongings. I was overcome with exhaustion and a sense of emotional fatigue, akin to that experienced by a heartbroken individual embarking on a new chapter in their life. Kay placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder and said, "John, you are making the right decision by moving on. This is an opportunity for you to reclaim your life." I nodded, a glimmer of hope emerging amidst the pain. "You are correct, Kay. I cannot continue dwelling on the past. It is time to confront her. We have devised a plan to meet her at her parents' house, a place where she would not feel cornered or threatened. It was there that I would finally break the news to her, ending our relationship and giving her the space to collect her belongings from the storage container I had arranged. The drive to her parents' house was filled with tension, with each mile bringing me closer to the confrontation I had been dreading. Kay sat beside me, offering silent support as we navigated the winding roads. When we arrived, Bessa's parents greeted us warmly, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Bess appeared in the living room, her face a mix of confusion and concern. I began, in a steady voice, to inform her that we needed to talk. She glanced nervously at Kay and then back at me, her eyes searching for answers. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice heavy with emotion. I revealed the painful truth to her, the betrayal, the affair, and the end of our relationship. Bessa's tears and pleas for forgiveness filled the room, but I remained resolute in the end. I left her belongings in the storage container, a symbol of the life we had once shared as Kay. As I departed from her parents' residence, I experienced a complex emotional state, comprising a sense of relief and sorrow. The tumultuous episode had reached its conclusion, yet I was acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. The decision to confront her in the presence of her parents was a challenging one, yet it represented a crucial step in my journey towards resolution and recovery. In the days that followed, I grappled with the gravity of my actions. I had disclosed her infidelity to her family, and the ramifications of that decision were far-reaching. Reaching Best had implored me to extend a second chance, yet I was unable to reconcile myself to forgiving her. The betrayal had caused irreparable damage to our relationship, and the trust we had shared was irrevocably broken. With Kay by my side, I returned to her parents' residence to confront her publicly and bring our relationship to a definitive end. As we entered the familiar living room, I could sense the palpable tension and the overwhelming sense of unease. The truth that had brought us here. Bessa's family sat in silence, their eyes fixed on me, waiting for an explanation. "I discovered that you had been unfaithful to your spouse with your boss, Richard. I viewed the messages and photographs." The room was filled with gasps as the truth hung in the air. Bessa's parents exchanged worried glances, and her mother's eyes filled with tears. Bessa's voice trembled as she attempted to clarify the situation. "John, the circumstances are more complex than you may realize." Kay placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, offering silent support. A hand on my shoulder provided silent reassurance. "Bess, the evidence is irrefutable. We cannot continue as though nothing has happened." Tears streamed down Bessa's face as she implored forgiveness, but I remained unwavering. It was a painful and public revelation of her deceit, a moment that would forever alter the course of our lives. Ultimately, I left Bessa's belongings in a storage container outside. The final act of closure was at her parents' house. The remnants of our life together were now confined to a box, serving as a stark reminder of what had been lost as Kay and I walked away from the house. I experienced a complex emotional state, comprising a mixture of sadness and relief. The storm had passed, and I had confronted it head-on, making the difficult choice to move forward without Bess. This was a painful step toward healing, but it was a necessary one. I was compelled to take this step after publicly disclosing Bessa's affair. My life appeared to be increasingly chaotic, and the storm I had unleashed continued to rage, affecting not only my own life but also the lives of those connected to Bess and her affair partner, Richard. One evening, I received an unexpected call from Richard's wife, Melissa. Her voice trembled with a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. She expressed disbelief and skepticism about the evidence I had presented. "Is this some kind of elaborate hoax?" Melissa's voice was laced with disbelief and anger. "Are you attempting to destroy our family?" I took a deep breath, recognizing the gravity of the situation. "Melissa, I'm truly sorry you're going through this, but I couldn't keep this secret any longer. I had to tell you the truth." Melissa's anger turned into sobs as she was processing the devastating news about her husband's affair. I was unsure of how to respond. "I have 3 children and 1 on the way. This is a nightmare." Tears welled up in my eyes as I tried to offer what little comfort I could from afar. I could not begin to imagine the pain she was going through. "Melissa, you deserve to know the truth. You deserve better." Our conversation was filled with tears and shared grief. The conversation concluded with Melissa expressing gratitude for the honesty displayed, despite the fact that the truth had caused significant disruption to her world in the days that followed. Richard was compelled to leave his residence as Melissa confronted him with the evidence provided. The consequences of his affair were evident, resulting in a trail of heartbreak and shattered trust. As the situation continued to intensify, I found myself reflecting on the broader implications of my actions. The ramifications of my decision to confront Bess were far-reaching. My choice to confront her had not only altered the course of my life but had also brought to light a painful truth that had long been obscured. The ramifications of this disclosure were far-reaching and weighed heavily on my conscience. However, I was compelled to acknowledge the truth, regardless of its painful nature, and bring it to light. This experience served as a stark reminder that the pursuit of closure and justice often comes with a significant cost, particularly when faced with the prolonged storm of betrayal and its aftermath. The situation subsequently took an unexpected turn when Mr. Johnson, Bess's father, paid me a visit one evening. He expressed his understanding and empathy for my actions. At the time, I was unaware that he was dealing with his own marital issues, which had arisen as a result of his daughter's betrayal. Sitting across from me in the dimly lit living room, Mr. Johnson proceeded to clarify his position. His eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "John, I want you to know that I do not condone what Bess did, and I am truly sorry for the pain she has caused you. This situation has also affected my marriage. My wife and I have been experiencing our own difficulties in attempting to comprehend the events that transpired." I could discern the visible signs of distress on Mr. Johnson's face, which reflected the immense toll that his daughter's actions had taken on his family. "I express my sincerest regret, Mr. Johnson. It is truly heartbreaking to witness the far-reaching consequences of such actions. Reaching the consequences of all this can be a painful process. John, sometimes the actions of one person can have a ripple effect, affecting numerous individuals in various ways." Our conversation that evening was marked by a shared understanding of the pain we had both endured, albeit in different forms. Mr. Johnson's visit served as a reminder that even in the midst of betrayal and heartbreak, unexpected bonds can form. In the weeks that followed, as I continued to grapple with the aftermath of my decision to confront Bess, I received an email from Mr. Johnson. He expressed his gratitude for my honesty and the closure I had provided. He also shared that he and his wife were seeking counseling to address their marital issues. The storm of betrayal had taken its toll on us all, but it had also brought a measure of clarity and the opportunity for growth. A chapter in our lives that none of us would ever forget. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, bonds could be formed in crisis and healing was possible with the storm of betrayal slowly receding into the past. I found myself standing on the threshold of a new chapter in my life. The wounds of the past were still fresh, but I was determined to move forward to reclaim my identity without the weight of Bess's betrayal hanging over me. One evening, Kay and I sat on the porch of my newly reclaimed apartment. The evening sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, a stark contrast to the darkness that had consumed my life not long ago. Goose sipped her tea and looked at me with a warm smile. "John, you've come a long way from where you were a few months ago. I'm proud of you." I observed a glimmer of hope, as if on a Q-tip, a shiny kitten I had adopted as a symbol of my newly found independence. The tiny ball of fur purred contentedly in my lap, serving as a constant reminder that I had the strength to stand up for myself and to build a life beyond the pain of betrayal. Over the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I reconnected with old friends, pursued new hobbies, and immersed myself in my work. It wasn't easy, but with the passage of each day, the effects of the past began to dissipate. One evening, as I sat at my desk, my phone buzzed with a message from Bess. She had been attempting to establish communication with me with the intention of reconciling our differences. However, I was convinced that it was time to firmly establish boundaries. "I'm sorry," I replied. "It is not possible to return to what we had. It is necessary for us to move forward separately." The reply was met with silence, and I was certain that it was the appropriate decision. It was a bittersweet moment of final closure, allowing me to fully embrace the new beginning I had been working toward. One evening, I sat on the porch with Kay once again sipping tea as the sun dipped below the horizon. She looked at me with a knowing smile. "John, you've come a long way. How do you feel now?" I took a deep breath, the weight of the past finally lifting from my shoulders. I felt free. "Kay, I've learned that I can. I have survived the most adverse circumstances and emerged from them with enhanced resilience. I am indebted to you for providing me with a stabilizing presence throughout this challenging period." As I gazed at the gradually fading daylight, I sensed that the future held promise and the potential for new beginnings. The kitten, which had symbolized my resilience, was curled up in my lap, purring softly. This was a poignant reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always the possibility of finding light and happiness once again.